A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Trump there at the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio also serving as his national security advisor, along with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth right there with President Trump announcing to the nation, similar to what he said in his post on social media not long ago, that the U.S. is now directly involved with Iran, striking 3 nuclear locations, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, 3 nuclear facilities that the U.S. had long been studying, as well as international observers around the world in tracking Iran's nuclear program and their desire perhaps one day to have a nuclear weapon. I want to bring in Mary Bruce. Let's go back to Mary at the White House. Mary, the president had warned Iran, come to the table. Let's negotiate some sort of a peace deal, that this current conflict must end. At last word, he said 2 weeks would be his deadline. We know that's turned out to be 2 days. We'll learn in the hours and days to come whether that was part of the strategy here. But this is a fairly risky move for this president, though tonight he says it's been a victory. He thanked U.S. forces who were involved, and he said if Iran does not end the wars and seek peace, tragedy for Iran will be even greater than what we've seen in the last 24 hours.
David, it is an extremely risky move, and no one knows really where this goes from here. Look, the president, we know, has long warned that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, but he also long was pushing for those negotiations. As you mentioned, it was just 2 days ago that the president announced, after yet another meeting in the Situation Room, that he was going to give himself this 2-week deadline within which to make this decision whether or not to strike Iran, in part because he thought there was, quote, a substantial chance of negotiations, that they would be able to get Iran back to the table. It is not clear still, even after hearing from the president just now, what changed his mind, what led him to believe there was no time left to waste, that the U.S. had to go ahead and get deeply involved in this conflict in a way that the president has also really promised the American people he would not. He campaigned on a promise to be a peacemaker and a unifier, to keep America out of these kinds of conflicts. And what's clear tonight is that the president is very much leaving open the door that there will be more of this. While he is hailing the strikes tonight as a huge success, he is also not ruling out additional military action, saying that there are many targets left, that they will act with precision, speed, and skill if needed. How all of this will ultimately end Iran's nuclear program is a huge question. And of course, David, Iran has promised a severe response if the U.S. were to be directly involved, as we now are.
And one quick follow-up to what you're reporting here, Mary. Obviously, you're watching ABC News live coverage at this hour. The president just addressing the nation, talking about the U.S. striking 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The president calling it a tremendous success. Speaking briefly with our John Carl earlier this evening before addressing the nation about this. And Mary, you've covered President Trump for some time. You've covered him as a candidate, his promises not to engage in the Middle East and in any more foreign wars. At the same time, he has long promised that Iran would not get a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, and David, just again 2 days ago, the White House, while saying that they were giving themselves this 2-week timeline, again stressed that Iran was very close to getting a nuclear weapon, saying that Iran had everything it needed to achieve a nuclear weapon, and that once the supreme leader gave the go-ahead, that it could be just a few weeks before Iran had that full capability. Clearly, something changed in the president's calculus to make him go ahead and make this decision tonight. It is a remarkable turn for a president who has avoided getting dragged into these kind of conflicts, and it is one that his presidency, it will now define. That is for sure.
Our chief White House correspondent, Mary Bruce, with us live here tonight. Mary, thank you. I want to bring in John Carl, our chief Washington correspondent. John, I was struck that you were able to connect with the president even before he addressed the nation tonight. Again, he was confident with what he had witnessed, what he'd been briefed on following this operation, and made it clear to the American people that all of the U.S. military involved in this operation is back out of that airspace and on their way home.
I think the most significant thing is I called him, really, David, just in the aftermath of learning about these attacks, within an hour of his speech that we just saw, and he picked up the phone. That was a measure of how eager he was to tout what he said in those words. He said to me, a tremendous success tonight. He didn't want to talk about the details of the operation, about the very difficult questions, David, of what are the next steps? What happens with Iran? What happens with Iran's efforts to retaliate? We heard some of that in the speech just now when he said the attacks will be far greater and much easier if Iran does anything to the United States. But David, we are in a new phase here right now. I think it is without question the most consequential decision that we have ever seen Donald Trump make. And it's entirely unclear what direction it will go. Will it be consistent with his promise to end the forever wars? That's the argument that's being made tonight by the president's advisors. They're saying that what this has done is finally an American president has taken care of an Iranian threat that has bedeviled the United States for nearly a half a century. Finally, an American president has ended a threat that has killed a lot of Americans, as you heard the president mention, in the attacks on American troops, especially in Iraq. But the question is, did it end the threat, or did it create another new and more dangerous chapter in the U.S.-Iran conflict?
Yeah, no question, it is a new chapter. John Carl, bottom line here, the willingness to get on the phone with you signaled that the president was very pleased with the outcome of this operation tonight.
Very pleased with the outcome and eager to tell people that he is very pleased with the outcome tonight.